Hello and welcome. You're tuned into our Eye on Africa programme. The news making headlines on the continent. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to fight for his position after a preliminary investigation found he could have committed serious crimes. A female MP in Senegal is slapped, kicked and knocked to the ground in the country's National Assembly. This after allegedly assaulting a pro-opposition religious leader. Plus, we bring you all the news, football news from the World Cup in Qatar. I'll be joined here in the studio by Jean-Emile Jamin. He'll have all the latest from the African teams competing today, namely Ghana and Cameroon. Our top story tonight, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is fighting for his political future this Friday. This after a preliminary inquiry found he may have committed serious crimes. Well, a report released just on Wednesday indicated there was enough evidence against Ramaphosa for Parliament to impeach him. Well, the 70-year-old head of state telling insiders that he would not object to resigning if his party, the ANC, request he do so. France 24's Nadine Ferron reports now from Cape Town.
President Cyril Ramaphosa wants to lodge a legal challenge against the preliminary findings that he may have contravened the Constitution. An independent panel released their findings on Wednesday, and since then speculation has been rife that Ramaphosa would rather resign before facing a parliamentary impeachment process next week. The ANC, his ruling party, held a special meeting in Johannesburg on Friday afternoon to discuss Ramaphosa's fate, but when he did not pitch up, the meeting was promptly adjourned. The ANC then told the media that Ramaphosa will convene with the ANC's top leaders and receive further counsel before making a decision. However, the Mail and Guardian, a local news publication, revealed that Ramaphosa intends to take the findings on legal review, and he can approach the Constitutional Court directly to do so, since impeachment deals with the Constitutional Act. Parliament can, however, still accept the findings on Tuesday and start an impeachment process against Ramaphosa. But since his party holds the majority of seats in Parliament, it is likely that he would survive that.
Well, away from South Africa, we take you straight to Senegal, where an MP, a female MP, was slapped, kicked and knocked to the ground at the country's National Assembly on Thursday. That was after allegedly insulting a pro-opposition religious leader. Well, feminist groups, public figures and fellow MPs have joined a chorus of condemnation against the violence. France 24 Sambad, please, brings you up to date from Dakar. Insane.
The scenes in Senegal's National Assembly were absolutely appalling. Amy Ndiaye-Nyibi, an MP from the governing coalition, was hit across the head by a male opposition lawmaker. In response, she picked up a chair to throw at him, and as she did so, was kicked in the stomach by another male opposition lawmaker. Amy Ndiaye-Nyibi is reportedly pregnant. She was immediately evacuated from the parliamentary chamber for medical treatment. The initial assault is said to have been triggered by disparaging comments made by the MP about a religious leader close to the opposition, but many have been quick to point out that this does not justify the terrible acts of violence that she suffered. On Friday morning, newspapers across Senegal led with this story, many describing it as horrific, shameful and barbaric as well, actually. Feminist groups have launched petitions. MPs from Amy Ndiaye-Nyibi's own party are calling on her to press criminal charges against those two opposition lawmakers. For now, though, it's yet to be seen whether either of them will face serious repercussions for the acts that they committed.
Now to Ivory Coast, to where the L'Oreal Foundation has held its Women for Science Awards this week. 20 researchers in total then receiving €10,000 each for their pioneering contributions to science. Well, here's one of the scientists who's been working on yam biopesticides. Have a listen.
Yam is more than a dish, it's a culture. We even have a yam festival. The yam is really important and it would be great to stop it from spoiling and have it keep for longer. That would mean we would eat it all year round. It's a much-loved delicacy and there's demand for it on the market. As a woman, to have my work recognised like this is a way of saying, we're following you, we see what you're doing, and we want you to keep it up. It's galvanising.
In Sudan, it's literally a race against the clock for one theatre group who are having a hard time raising the funds to perform their latest play abroad. Well, they've been holding a series of shows in a bid to gather the funds. The objective then, to travel to the Qatar Theatre Festival in Tunisia that's being held this weekend.
Racing against the clock to spread their art beyond their country's borders. This Sudanese theatre troupe steps on stage to perform its latest play in the hopes of raising enough money to take part in the Carthage Theatre Festival, which takes place this weekend in Tunisia.
We're trying to raise funds for tickets and travel expenses. We're in high spirits and putting all our efforts into this show. We also try to reduce the budget. I'm being told not to purchase costumes, that actors will bring what they have at home.
The eagle regains his wings tells the story of a retired sculptor who renews with his craft after 30 years. The play, which also includes musical and dance numbers, has been well received by the Sudanese public, with many spectators also eager to help the troupe realize its dream of performing abroad.
We came here to watch the show, but also to support Sudan's cultural scene and its representation at international festivals.
For many spectators, the play also offered a welcome escape from the harsh realities of life in Sudan, a country that's been plunged in a deepening economic and political crisis for over a year.
Sports, huh? In Togo, sports for disabled athletes is going from strength to strength. Several have already taken part in global competitions like the 2019 African Games in Marrakesh and the 2020 Tokyo Paralympic Games. France 24's Emmanuel Soji reports on Togo's sportsmen and women who show no sign of slowing down.
At the last Paralympic Games in Tokyo in 2021, Jacqueline Kabisa was the only athlete representing Togo. The field event specialist achieved her personal best in shot put. Despite coming home with no medal, it was a high point for Kabisa's career against the odds after she was hit by a car 9 years ago.
The day I was amputated, I said to myself that it was the end for me. It was the end of the world. I didn't want to go out. I was ashamed.
To overcome her disability, the young girl joined a para-sports club that had just opened.
My disability has opened many doors for me and I've learnt a lot. Now people respect me when before they denigrated me. Now I do sports. I have value.
Before the first training session, members need to prepare mentally as well as physically.
We have psychologists who work with our members. They help them accept their disability, overcome stigma, and have the courage to do their best.
She also took up football, becoming the first woman to play among the centre's 50 or so young amputees. This incubator for young football talent now has about 10 professional players. One of them, Jilalu Agbere, went to Germany and was awarded the Golden Ball last year in the German Amputee Soccer Championship.
One of our players got his golden ball in Germany, and that's really inspiring for everyone else to keep trying. It drives other players to work to reach the same level.
Parasports as a whole still have a way to go in Togo, but the country is set to boost its football talent with para-football clubs due to open all over the country next year.
And finally for you, of course, some sports. An intense day at the World Cup in Qatar. We know that earlier South Korea beat Portugal 2-1. Uruguay then claiming a 2-0 victory over Ghana. Cameroon and Brazil have just wrapped up, as have Serbia and Switzerland. I'm joined in the studio by France 24's Jean-Emile Jamine. Good to have you to kind of talk us through this. Bad news for Ghana, Jean-Emile, and bad news for Cameroon.
Well, after such a crazy day, and Ghana just not at the races against Uruguay. It was a replay of that 2010 famous handball incident with Luis Suarez. Ghana once again missing a penalty that could have changed the whole game. And at the end of the day, Uruguay then beat them 2-0, which means that the Black Stars crash out. And there was so much hope for Otada's side, the likes of Mohamed Kudus in the middle of the park, Thomas Partey, but just no one at the races today. And you can't say that they would have deserved to go through had they done so or just snatched a point against Uruguay. They only needed a point. They couldn't get it.
Big disappointment for the Black Stars, of course. Talk to us about Cameroon. They've just wrapped up. They did what they needed to, but in the end, wasn't enough.
Not enough, and they did everything they had to do. Beating Brazil, 1-0. Vincent Aboubakar, 92nd minute. But as it stands, Switzerland, they beat Serbia, and then with all the points that we wrap up with, the indomitable Lions, they go home. And I mean, it is so frustrating for that team. They came back against Serbia from 3-1 down. They beat Brazil. It seems like they did everything that they had to do. But the Swiss ultimately prevail, and the Brazilians, despite losing, Cameroon winning, they go home.
Jean-Emile, this competition, so many surprises in store, so many intense moments, and there's plenty more to come. And that brings us to the end of tonight's Eye on Africa programme. Thanks very much for that debrief for us. We'll be up with more international headlines coming up very shortly for you.
I've never forgiven them, and I never will. And I would never shake an Argentinian's hand until they renounce their claim to our sovereignty.
I hope that one day the UK will recognise Argentina's sovereignty in the Malvinas. It would be amazing to be able to visit them as a province of Argentina.
The people here want to be British.
This Argentine village was founded in 1820, but as soon as there was an opening, the British took advantage to steal the Malvinas Islands on January the 3rd, 1833.
A rocky archipelago lost on the fringes of the South Atlantic, over which two countries are torn apart, to the extent of giving it two different names and going to war 40 years ago this year. The Falkland Islands revisited on France 24 and France24.com. Your needs are changing, and so is France24.com. With articles, reports, the latest international news, all our programmes available on replay, together with live broadcasting 24/7. Intuitive, fast, and available in 4 languages. France24.com. Liberté, égalité, actualité.